This is a reading of The Remarkable Friendship of Aristotle and Burgoo, written by Mr. Robbins. Part 1. The Gulf Coast. Way down on the Gulf Coast, where the rivers stop flowing, little clouds are hatched out when the moist winds are blowing, and each cloud is unique, although they start out the same. But since each one becomes different, they each get a name. There's been a short cloud named Willie, and a pretty one named Jenny. There's been a tall one named Louis, and a dense one called Denny. There's been a Dorothy, a Ted, and a red cloud named Jasper. There's been an Ethel, a Fred, and a pale cloud named Casper. And each of these clouds was expected, you see, to become the very best cloud it could possibly be. And so this starts our story down on the Gulf Coast, about a small cloud with a name longer than most. Meet Aristotle, a shy and quiet little cloud. He seldom puffed up. He almost never got loud. When his big older brothers would puff up and then grumble, trying to sound like a thunderstorm's rumble, Aristotle was busy spending his time with Burgoo. Burgoo was a pelican, but their friendship was true. They would play on the beach down on the Gulf Coast, where the hot summer season was longer than most. Aristotle would watch while Burgoo would go fishing, and they'd play in the waves, each splashing and splishing. They'd play hide-and-go-seek and float high in the sky, and they'd play tag with the seagulls as they circled nearby. With each day together, their friendship grew stronger, until Aristotle did not act like a cloud any longer.
Aristotle's not normal.
His Aunt Nimbus did say. She'd shake her head sadly, watching other clouds play.
When his brothers were small, they played the storm game. Aristotle never plays it, and that bird is to blame. Soon his school time will come, like it did for his brothers, and Aristotle won't do near as well as the others.
Mom looked kind of sad as her brow formed a wrinkle. Then she frowned just a bit, and she started to sprinkle. Mom and Dad both nodded, and each looked at the other. Then Dad finally spoke.
"It's time to talk to him, Mother."
When the next morning came, Mother talked to her son. Aristotle was puzzled.
Can I no longer have fun?
Well, of course you can, dear, but you must follow a new rule. You'll study storm stuff each day, then play after school. And we also believe you should do as clouds do, like staying up in the sky and away from Burgoo.
Aristotle left sadly, drifting high in the sky, after he told Burgoo and his beach friends goodbye. He looked down to see Burgoo talking to Scat. Scat was a wisecracking crow who behaved like a brat. Scat was usually a loner that caused trouble to all. Now he'd heard about Aristotle, and he was having a ball.
I hear Aristotle can't play on our beach anymore.
He then laughed out loud as he flew along the shore.
It's okay with me, though.
He yelled back to Burgoo.
Aristotle was kind of weird, and it was rubbing off on you. Now you and I can be friends. We don't need a weird cloud. Hey, let's fly up to the pier, trash it up, and get loud.
Burgoo didn't want to do that, and he looked up toward his friend. He whispered,
I wish the two of us could play together again.
As the days slowly passed, Burgoo played alone near the shore. But Burgoo was so lonely, he could take it no more. Even though Burgoo knew he was breaking a rule, he left the next morning to visit thunderstorm school. Aristotle was delighted to see his best friend Burgoo, and was anxious to tell him of the things he'd been through.
My folks are expecting some big things out of me, 'cause there's really big storm clouds in our family tree. My father's quite famous. He's a great thunderstorm cloud. When he puffs up his features, he draws a very large crowd. Weathermen get the shivers, and brave men get the shakes when they see all the thunder and lightning he makes. His hailstones are gigantic. His winds are very strong, and his raindrops make splatters over a half a mile long. But I don't believe I will make him very proud, 'cause I'm not any good at being a thunderstorm cloud. Every time that I start up, when I huff and I puff, I don't look very scary. I don't look very tough. In fact, I look mostly like marshmallow fluff. My hailstones are mushy. My lightning turns pink. My raindrops don't splatter. They just go kerplink, and my thunder's so quiet even babies don't blink. Burgoo, as a storm cloud, I really do stink.
Burgoo let out a giggle, and then he giggled some more, which you'd think might make his friend kind of sore. But Aristotle and Burgoo had a friendship so true that Aristotle just smiled and started giggling too. They both laughed and laughed as hard as they could. They were together again, and it really felt good.
Let's go get some lunch,
said Burgoo with a smile.
We haven't been to the diner in a very long while.
Hi, I'm Jen, and I'd like to welcome you to the Louisiana Fly-Through Diner. Today's luncheon special is really special. Sea turtle tacos. These are slow cooked in a tasty taco sauce with tiny tater tots. You can also order off our excellent menu. Have a look, and I'll be back in just a few minutes to take your order.
As they ate lunch together that very same day, Burgoo told his friend,
I've got something to say. I think it's a mistake, this storm school and you. I think that it's time you tried something new.
Aristotle nodded silently. He agreed with Burgoo. A change from storm school was the best thing to do.
You know the difficult thing will be telling my dad. He will be very upset, and disappointed, and mad.
When the two found his parents, Aristotle began to tell them the details of Burgoo's and his plan.
Mom and Dad,
he said slowly,
I'm not a storm cloud. It just isn't me to puff up and get loud. I know that the storm school worked well for my brothers, but Burgoo and I think I should look at some others, like a fog school or a drizzle school, at least something new. We vote to change schools, both me and Burgoo.
His mother smiled softly with a wink in her eye, but his father exploded right there in the sky. He took one big breath while turning dark green, probably the darkest dark green that had ever been seen. He took another big breath to puff out his cheeks. Then he filled up the sky with large lightning streaks. He snorted, he grumbled, he belted out thunder as Earth people scrambled for their beds to hide under. He took one more big breath, and just about then, he said,
Now how about you two try voting again?
Aristotle was so disappointed, and so was Burgoo. They hung their heads sadly and wondered what to do. Then Mother looked softly into Aristotle's sad eyes and said,
Now maybe, just maybe, we can all compromise. Father, what would you think if Aristotle would go up to Winterflake Falls and learn how to snow? To become a snow cloud, so peaceful and quiet. I know he'd be good, and I'd like him to try it.
Aristotle smiled happily, and so did Burgoo. It sounded just perfect, and the best thing to do. Burgoo then added,
If you'll both be so kind, I'd like to go with him. I hope you won't mind.
And so it was decided that Aristotle and Burgoo could leave the storm school and try something new. They'd be going up north for a big change in the weather, and both were excited because they'd be going together.
That's the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.